Staying on track with food so that we can reach our body goals is a real struggle, isn't it? And in this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can stay on track with food. And one of those tips is to find your reason why. And that's what I did, and it's so powerful. Hello fam, and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal, and this channel is all about helping you, if you're a woman over 40 or like me over 50, get in great shape. And one of the things that can really sabotage our weight loss or our fat loss goals, isn't it, is if we can't stay on track with food. And I know that food's the most difficult thing to actually kind of get nailed, isn't it? And in previous videos, I've talked about what the right diet is, so do check them out. But today I'm just purely talking about how to stay on track with food and what to do if you do go off track, because it's not the disaster that you think it might be. So many of you have been telling me how difficult you find it to stay on track with food. And there's a number of reasons for this, isn't there? You know, the food industry, they make it really enticing for us, don't they? With that right amount of high sugar, high salt, high fat, that's really hard to resist. But we do need to resist, don't we, if we're going to get in shape, especially when we're older. And that's not to say we can't have those things on occasions. And the other problem is we tend to eat emotionally, don't we? We don't necessarily eat when we're hungry. We eat for emotional reasons, and that's a big problem for women, isn't it? And so if that's you, it's really important, if it's got out of control, to actually get professional help. If you go on a diet, you're actually kind of treating the symptoms and not treating the cause. And it's really important to get on top of those psychological reasons why you might be turning to food in times of stress. My number one tip is meal prep. Now, I've made a video all about meal prep, and I will link that in the description and at the end of this video, so you can get an idea of exactly what you need to do for meal prep. But if we plan our meals in advance, we're much more likely to stay on track. And that's a fact. The women that I know that do really well at this, they actually prepare their meals in advance, maybe 3 or 4 days ahead. They have them boxed up, stored in their refrigerator, and they either take them out to work with them, or if they're working from home, they have them prepared at home. And that's what I do when I'm in a fat loss phase. I don't leave anything to chance. I get everything prepared and weighed out in advance. My number two tip, and this might sound really obvious, but don't go hungry, because if you go hungry, you're more likely to binge and eat the wrong foods when you do go off track. The meal prep thing is going to help us stop getting hungry, isn't it, if we've got meals prepared in advance. But don't go for hours and hours without food. I know intermittent fasting is popular, and if that's comfortable for you, that's okay. But if you're uncomfortable, just eat before you get uncomfortable, because that means you're much more likely to stay on track. And I know from my own experience, if I let myself get hungry, what happens when I do eat is I actually overeat. Number three, remove foods from your house that are going to make you go off track. So those high fat, high salt, high sugar foods, remove them from your house. Or if you're like me and you've got teenagers in the house, maybe put a lock on the cupboard that they're in and you don't have the key. Number four, and I talked about this at the start, and it's kind of like the mindset stuff really, but find your reason why. Why are you doing this? You need to have a really strong reason why. For me, it was about getting in great health for getting into my later years in life, my 60s, 70s and 80s. It was about being around my kids and being healthy. What is your reason why? Is it health reasons? Do you want to feel good on the inside? Or do you want to look good on the outside? Do you want to look good naked or in a swimsuit? Or maybe it's a combination of all those things. And write them down. And you know, when you've really got to focus on what your strong reasons reason why is. It's going to really help you stick to that plan. Next, I'm going to talk about what to do if you feel tempted, because we're always going to be tempted. If you walk down the high street in the UK, and I know in the USA, if you go anywhere, there are fast food joints everywhere and there's somewhere to sit down and eat. So the first thing to say is check in with yourself. Are you actually hungry, or do you want to put something in your mouth? Because there is a difference. You can also try the technique of waiting for 5 minutes. Then drink some water. I know it's a cliche and a lot of other weight loss people talk about drinking some water, but you can actually be thirsty when you think you're hungry. Then going back to the meal prep, can you just eat something that you've already prepared and have other things like salads, big bowls of salads and peppers and tomatoes all prepared up in advance and box them up? Because if you eat those, you're not going to go far wrong. It's not going to make you gain weight, is it? And do distract yourself. Go out for a walk or make a phone call if you're feeling like you would go off track, and that's going to distract you, isn't it, for at least half an hour to an hour. So now I'm going to talk about what you do if you actually do go off track. First thing to say is it's not the disaster that you think it might be. You're not going to gain weight just because you've gone off track with one kind of cookie, one cake, a packet of chips. And even if you go off track all day, what can happen is you can get on the scale the next day and it looks like you've put on weight, but generally that's water weight and it will come off in a couple of days. And to actually gain weight going off track, you've got to do that over a number of days or have one of those ridiculous 10,000 calorie challenges. And then the next thing to say is just get back on track as soon as you possibly can. Don't let it spiral out of control and you just think, oh, it's a disaster because I've eaten one thing and that's ruined the whole thing. No, it won't. If you get on track as soon as possible, you're gonna get damage limitation. If you do feel that you have a poor relationship with food, emotional eating, or it might be bordering into an eating disorder, do seek professional help or get some self-help books on emotional eating and eating disorders and start reading up about the techniques that you can use to deal with that. Do let me know in the comments section if staying on track is a real struggle for you. I know so many of you told me about this and I found it hard myself, and occasionally I have those moments, believe it or not, where I do find it really difficult to stay on track, and I think everyone does. It's just how you deal with it that counts. If you can get back on track and not let it get you down too much, you're still going to reach your goals.